capacity name.
Yeah, and that's right. But that's why I said I just refer to it as the intervention team because every school has a different name for it, and the state just refers to it as a school-based committee. But it's got usually some acronym or something cute or something that goes along with your, with your theme at your school or the name of your school or, something that it's immaterial what it's called. It's your intervention team. It's where kids get referred before they go in, and that starts the MTSS. Now everybody understands what MTSS is. That's your multi-tiered system of support, and I just outlined it for you. 30 days of anecdotal, where you collect data on these kids. 30 days of trying an intervention. After that 30 days, you evaluate, and if the kids are responding, you keep doing that intervention for another 30, and if they aren't, you give them a different intervention for 30 days. And only then can you test those kids for EC. So that intervention team is one of those federal special populations programs. That's what we're speaking to here in this third box or bullet of the OMA is that you need to identify which of those are in your school and what their purpose is, who they serve. How many EC? Is it inclusion? Is it pull out LD? Is it autistic? What have you got? 504. What do you do with those kids? What system do you have for your ESL? Do you have classes? Are they inclusion model ESL? The teacher comes to the regular classroom. What do you offer at your school?
How far in depth do you want us to go with that?
Again, that's what I'm talking about. I want you to write me who they are, one good or two good solid paragraphs about them, so that I know that that these are separate and apart than regular things in a school, and you can't treat them the same way. Their funding is different, and how you deal with them is different.
Do you want us to talk about where the funding comes from, like where the MTSS funding is coming from, where the EC and all that stuff?
And you can just say federal funds. You just need to know that where it's coming from. But make sure make sure that you include your intervention team. And as Nicole said, it may have some different name. But the state refers to that as a school-based committee.
I have a question.
Principal's responsible for it.
Dr. Lamb, I have a question.
Yes.
I'm on the MTSS team. This is my first year. And we were informed at our first meeting that the process is now 10 weeks with one intervention and then another 10 weeks. And then they go to the higher level for 10 weeks. So it's basically 30 weeks before we can refer them. Is that the process across the state? Or is that
the model that you work off of is 6 weeks, is 6, 6, and 6. Right. And so in the end it's 18 weeks. And so y'all are going to a 30-week model?
Yes, sir.
Ouch.
Right. I mean, you're only in school 40-something weeks. How are you going to ever get anybody referred?
Well, right. My suspicion is that's the point.
Right. That's what I thought.
I met with one of my new interns this week in a county nearby here, and I won't tell you which office I'm in tonight. I'm actually in the Lake office tonight. I met with her, and she's an EC. She's the EC department chair, and what she said to me is they're trying to discourage me from having a parent request testing for their child. And I said, oh no, you can't do that. You can't discourage them from doing that. But I said, you understand what they're doing. They have a set amount of money and teachers and services, and they don't want somebody upsetting the apple cart and y'all going in and identifying something new on this kid that they're going to have to provide. But see, the law is clear. You provide what you have to according to what the IEP team finds through the testing and the process, not the other way around. This is what we offer. Make them fit in what we already offer. And that's basically what they were trying. The district people were trying to say to this school was, make this kid fit. We've got a place for him right now. Make him fit here. don't test him because he might fit over there and we don't have the resources. That's not the way it works. That's backwards, but a lot of districts will do that, and a lot of districts will add extra weeks in with the idea of, oh, we care about children and we're trying to do the right thing for kids, when in fact what they're trying to do is slow down the identification process so that they won't have to hire more people this year. So if you start right now and go through a process that's 30 weeks long, there's only 36 weeks in the school year. So you won't have to provide any services for those kids till next year. They're not denying them services. They're just delaying them now so that they won't, because they've already got their roster of teachers and their budget set for the year. And they don't want to have to go back and revisit that because they've probably, encumbered all the money for it for the year. And they're worried that if you start identifying more kids right now, that they won't have the resources to cover. So it's,
So can I ask a question to that then? Are you,
yeah.
Because we follow I'm on the MTSS committee, and I'm also the EC person. So are you allowed to just go ahead and change the criteria for testing? I mean, any parent can request testing at any moment.
That's correct.
But
you can't tell them no, or you can't discourage them, because so what I sent back to that teacher was, I was there, and then I sent back, I said, you need to go back and look at the Parents' Rights Handbook. They can request testing at any time, and that moves them to the front of the line. You can't tell them no.
Right. I mean, you may not be able to find anything because there's no evidence or anything, but you can't deny that testing.
You can't deny them testing. I said, that doesn't mean that you're going to change their placement, but you can't deny the testing, and you can't discourage it or in any way drag your feet or do any of that. That's their right. They got to get. Now that doesn't mean that the IEP team, as a result of that testing, is going to take any action. But you better get the testing done if the parent came in and signed the form.
So can the MTSS team, though, like she was saying, her school switched it to the 30 weeks. Can you do that?
SBC, the state identifies that as an SBC, all right, school-based committee. So that means at the district level, that's not a federal committee. I mean, it's not yet. Those kids have not been identified and placed in a federal program yet, which is EC or 504 or wherever they fit. It's still under the school's purview. It's called a school-based committee. That means your 504 or your EC person's not in charge, and they're not responsible. It's still based at the school. It still would be seen as a state committee. And so, yes, they can change they can add. They can't take away from that now. I wouldn't take away from that and accelerate the process for identification, but you can always add to it. Because I know a lot of districts are adding to that now. Because it slows down the identification process after the school year's already started and your personnel is set. Now, as an office person, I can tell you, it's a nightmare when you start the year and you've got all your resources already obligated for the year, and you've already got your staff in place in places and populations, and all of a sudden somebody throws a wrench in that. But and the folks in that district will argue that this will, maybe we can find some interventions for this kid, and this kid won't have to be placed in EC. And so they couch it in such terms that I understand it, but I also know that there are some kids we could have them in intervention till they're as old as I am, and that won't, they need to be moved on. And see, that's what concerns me, that for every kid that we may be making too quick a decision on through the 90 days, which is 18 weeks, there's a lot more of them that we're just delaying the inevitable, and they're not getting the help that they need, I'm afraid. From my experience, I was only in the business for 32 years. And then I've, been doing this for 7. So this is coming up on my 40th year. I've only been in the business 40 years. I've not seen and done everything. I've seen and done most of it. And I would guesstimate, this is just Dale's opinion now, I've got no data to back this up, but I would guesstimate for every kid that delaying them an additional 12 weeks, for every one of those that all of a sudden we get an aha moment and the magic occurs and they start doing better, for every one of those that's delayed for 12 weeks, there's 10 that don't need to be delayed 12 weeks, that we really need to get services to quicker. I'd say it's 10 to 1. I mean, how many miracles do you see happen during the intervention team process? You folks that are on it, how many miracles have you? I mean, you've seen a little bit of improvement, but how many of them all of a sudden, bang, and it was, oh, everything's okay now? You know,
I saw my first one yesterday.
that's what I mean. I only saw like 4 the whole 39 years, going on 40 years I've been in the business. I've only even heard of 4. So I don't mean to be ugly, but you know, this is school management 101 here. This is what you're supposed to be learning through this class and through this clinical experience of how it's supposed to be, and this is how it really is. You know, in the ideal world, we're trying to support kids and do the best we can. In the real world, we've already got all our money obligated this year, so don't be identifying any more kids anytime soon. You know, the money runs out. You know, in an ideal world, we know in an ideal world that I better not answer that. We know in an ideal world that most kids our EC kids are going to be EC kids no matter what we do. In an ideal world, that our services that we give them are the best that we can give them. But in the real world, we know that the inclusion model is not as good as some of the others. It's just a lot cheaper. So when we talk about inclusion versus, you know, versus pull out, where we have the kids in the room with the EC teacher, we know that's a better model. It's just not nearly as efficient. It costs a lot more. That's the truth. I don't know that I've ever seen any data that says, wow, this inclusion model where the teachers just drop by the room every once in a while works a whole lot better than that old model where we had them and we're able to have them in small groups and we're able to work independently with them. I don't think anybody, I have seen no data that, but it's just a more efficient, and it reduced our overhead 30% when we went to the inclusion model. And that was the point, not to deliver better services, but to cut the budget 30% because our budget got cut 30% from the federal government. That's the real world, folks. I hate it. I mean, those kids, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but those children need everything that you can give them and more. And inclusion model was never designed to serve them better. It was designed to save money. And that's just, you know, I can't be any plainer than that. And I hate that, but you know, there are realities in this business. And so this course is about balancing law and budgets. And you can't separate them. They're like this. You know, how do I follow the law and stay within my budget? And that's what the EC people battle every day. And so for the, you know, one of the ways that a district might help them out is to slow down the identification process and make it 30 weeks rather than 18. And that way there'll be no more place this year. Whatever you got right now, because we're 6 weeks in, whatever you got right now is what you're going to have. You won't have to worry about any more kids being placed, no matter how many are referred this year. You could have, you know, almost 2 more rounds of placements in this year. If it was 18 weeks, you could get a lot more kids, but that's not going to happen because they've already committed their resources. This is the ugly side of the business, in my opinion. This is the kind of stuff that ought to make you not sleep well at night. I hate it, but this is the way it is. The only other thing is I've seen a couple of these. Make sure that you look to see if your school improvement team is in any way involved in the budgeting process at your school, because what you're looking for is the school improvement team and the principal are responsible for that school improvement plan. And the only way that school improvement plan is ever going to be implemented and have any success is that the budget supports it. You know, one of the things that we have you do, like when you come up with an action plan, is what resources is it going to take? Well, those resources have to be designated through your school budget. That money's got to be there, those people, those resources, human and capital. And one of the disconnects that you see in some schools is principal makes the budget, the school improvement team's not involved in that, and so all the initiatives in the school improvement plan don't get funded because that wasn't a consideration when the budget was put together. I know that sounds like an oversimplification, but that's very important, that your budget, your local school budget, supports your school improvement plan. I mean, that would sound like would just be a duh. Why wouldn't you do that? But some schools don't do that. They see that plan is just something that they make and have to turn in to the central office. And we'll go back to what the law says. You notice that the state puts it together in the law, and there's a reason why they put it together. One is supposed to support the other. To make available school budget and school improvement plans, the principal shall maintain a copy of the school's current budget and school improvement plan and any amendments, and shall allow them to parents and other interested parties. And the reason why they've got that together is you're supposed to be able to walk into a school and ask for those two documents and compare one to the other. That's what you're supposed to be able to do. Here's their plan. Here's their budget. Does their budget support their plan? You're supposed to, as an interested party, be able to walk in and see that. And that's why they have it in the same line in the law. They're supposed to be part and parcel of one another. The budget is supposed to be there to support the plan. And that's what you're supposed to find out. Yes, do a quick review of the budgeting process, but more importantly, is that school improvement team involved in it so that we know that that budget is aligned with that school improvement plan. It's just that simple. That's very important, though. Very important. So that's why we ask you to do that. So make sure you hit those two notes. Looking at task 2. We look at the resources used to build instruction. Now, here's the quick and dirty. If you will look at APTEL, I'm sorry, let me be clear here, APTEL. If you will look at APTEL Task 3, it is OMA Task 2. I'll say that again.
Please say that again.
If you let a group of teachers in some sort of staff development, you can just change the column headings on APTEL Task 2 and submit it as OMA Task 3, as APTEL Task 3 as OMA 2. Remember what you did in APTEL Task 3, where you led a group of teachers in staff development? It's the same thing. Don't reinvent the wheel. If you led a group of teachers in some sort of instructional staff development, that goes back to you've heard me yell and scream and preach about you got to start in the app cell. You got to start with your most pressing need being something academic. You extend that to the APTEL, and you end up doing your staff development to improve instruction or to put that new program in. If you do it that way, when you get here, you can just change the headings from APTEL Task 3 to OMA Task 2. Copy and paste. Is Mike on here with us tonight? I had Mike do that. Works out great. If you read what you got to have in here, it's exactly what you did. If you pick something like graduation rate as your most pressing need, or attendance, or PBIS, or one of those non-instructional things, this is your punishment. It won't fit here. You have to do something different. That's why I tell you, don't do that. Pick something academic. You'll be thankful down the road when you get to the APTEL. It plugs right in, and you can just do the staff development for whatever you were doing for your most pressing need in the app cell. And then when you get to the OMA, 2 is already written for you. I'm telling you. And then when you get to the SOP's just a copy and paste if you do it this way.
You said the APTEL, what we did this summer.
Yep. The second one, the APTEL, Task 3. Go back and look at it. I can pull it up. It's the same stuff.
Is it Task 3 or Task 2?
3. Task 3 in the APTEL is the same as Task 2 in the OMA if you did something instructional as your most pressing need, and then did staff development in that area where you led a group of teachers in instructional. Now, if you work with a group of teachers on PBIS, won't fit here.
So At the risk of sounding, I don't know, dumb, can I just verify that mine was okay? Because I did it on showing EC scores being raised throughout the school.
There you go.
That would fit, right?
Yeah, that's instructional. Test scores. If it's something to do with test scores, whether it's regular or EC, that's instructional. But if you did graduation rate or attendance or PBIS, that's got nothing to do with instruction. Now, don't try to argue me down. Oh, if you're not here, you can't learn. But no, just because kids are in the building doesn't mean that they learn. If you want kids to learn more, you have to teach them more. And so, we could talk, if under that logic, the most important person in the organization is the bus driver because they brought them every morning. Under that logic, no. If you want kids to learn more, you have to teach them more. Just getting them in the building is that doesn't guarantee that any learning is going on. So these people who are, well, if they don't behave, they can't learn. Well, I've been in classrooms where the kids were very well behaved. Them and the teacher were sound asleep. Everybody had their head down. Tell me how much learning was going on there. None. So I don't want to spend all of our time here tonight, but let me go back to desktop and get out of this.
Okay, Dr. Lamb, I'm gonna put mine in the discussion board.
All right, let me go here. You may lose me for a second here and only see my picture, and I apologize for that profusely. But let me go to File Manager here if I can get it to open up. It doesn't like to open in Zoom. I think y'all probably know that better than me since y'all do is everybody doing their Zoom peer reviews for their coaches? Everybody's supposed to say, yeah, Deb, we're doing that.
What do you mean for coaches? Like our clinical coach?
Yeah, everybody's doing their peer review so they can get their work done, right? Everybody's is peer reviewing all the tasks that they're doing at their OMA this semester.
We will be. Ours is scheduled.
For my part, I don't know what your coach is going to require. Some of you, I'm your coach. I'm your internship coach or whatever. Like if Chris is on there, as an instructor, a couple of those, how many you're supposed to do is fine with me. That's why I said just get your groups together. Just keep on the same groups that you had and just keep on going. If it's working for you, don't change it. Let's see. Oh, I got this game handbook. Well, of course not. I'm gonna have to. All right, here it comes. All right, I'm going to open the scale handbook and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. If I can get the scale handbook to open while I've got Zoom already up. Oh, there it comes. Can y'all see the scale handbook on the screen?
Yes.
Yay. It worked. All right. So let's look at what you do in APTEL Task 3. Here we go. Come on, you can do it. All right, here we go. You will assemble a lead group of colleagues to develop a teacher empowerment leadership growth plan where you will have a plan for positive school environment, documentation, list of indicators, specific activities to address the identified goal and objectives, state timeline of activities, a plan for stakeholder specific roles, the action plan. And so basically what you're doing is assembling a team of develop and present a teacher empowerment leadership professional growth plan where basically what you're doing is putting together a staff development plan. Everybody sees how that works? All right. So now if we looked at, this, nope, wrong one. If we looked at this, it's pretty much the same thing. Needs assessment, same thing you did there in 2. You can actually start in APTEL 2 where you did your needs assessment, because that's what you did in 2. You got to do a needs assessment here, and then you have a plan for growth, detailed plan for professional development activities. It's exactly the same thing. So you can actually start in task 2 on the APTEL and copy 2 and 3, take out any references to the APTEL, and it becomes OMA task 2 if you did instruction or test scores. Now, you know, your punishment for not following the directions and doing something that had to do with student learning, or you bent the definition of student learning to include discipline or attendance or graduation rate, then you're going to have to start from the very beginning on this. And so it was very clear I didn't let any of mine do that. I had one, if y'all remember, I think I was on with Dr. Ted back in the spring. I had one that he was imagined that he was going to do discipline, because that's what it's, and so if you remember, I told him, you'll be mine and you won't do discipline. So he dropped out the next day. That's a good thing. But I was just trying to save him from himself. It's a tough road to hoe if you didn't start out with instruction in the APTEL. That means you had a lot more work to do in the APTEL, and then you're going to have to do a lot more work here. But if you did it the way you were supposed to, APTEL was much easier. And now you basically, in about 30 minutes, you can change the titles on APTEL task 2 and 3 and submitted it for the OMA task 2, and you're golden. My gift to you. This is your this is your reward for following the directions. And so in task 3, building a schedule, we'll talk more about it next week, but I'll introduce it to you tonight. What you're working on is a revised schedule that might work better, but it's got to follow federal law, state law, and those kinds of things. But we won't worry about it tonight. I'm looking at my time here. I don't want to keep you too long. I've got a couple of things I want to cover with you, but just you'll do an analysis of your existing schedule, strengths and weaknesses, alignment to school improvement team findings. Again, that same thing. Does your schedule, in task 1 of the OMA, does your budget support, your school improvement plan? And then in the second one here, or the third one here, does your master schedule support your school improvement plan? That's what they're asking you in that second one. Legal requirements for planning instruction. I gave you a document to help you with that. Alignment with needs of diverse and exceptional populations. Why do you think I just went back and said you need to do this in task 1? If you do it in task 1, you'll have it here. It's simply a copy and paste now, because you're going to have to. So if you do it in task 1, like we talked about first thing tonight, you'll have it here and it's already done for you. So you begin to see, if you kind of follow the process, you get a little bonus every once in a while. Oh, I've already done that, or I can use this for that. And then utilization of findings based for revising. Then you revise your schedule. You don't have to go in great depth, but these are the things that I would change for these reasons. And that's pretty much it. But you've got some of this stuff is already there. You know what you're looking for. You've already done a review of your special populations. You've already looked to see if your budget supports your school improvement plan. Now you look to see if your actual master schedule supports your school improvement plan. You've got your review of special populations. This one should not take you a very long time. And then, of course, when you get to 4, you just reflect on your competencies. So you ought to be able to knock this out pretty quickly if you started with instruction back long ago. then you get a really good bonus on OMA Task 2. Questions about that? Everybody understands now. If you did attendance, if you did discipline, if you did graduation rate, you're going to have to start from the very beginning on that one. So you better start digging now. All right. So let's look at the couple of documents that I've got for you tonight that maybe will help you with some of your other things coming up down the road. Let me go to new share here. All right. I've got this document for you. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I was the keynote in 2011 at the big Helpful Living Conference, DPI's big conference at Curry in Greensboro. Some of you are old enough, you might have seen me there. But this is what I presented there. And basically what it speaks to is if you stop the little things at your school in terms of behavior, if you stop the little things, it'll take care of the big things, and you won't have so many acts of crime and violence. And all the research and is in this, and it speaks to no child left behind. You can't have persistently, you can't have acts of crime and violence at your school, and all that's explained in this one. You ought to review this thing. It'll take you half an hour, but it's good stuff. And basically what it says is if you let, for example, if you let a lot, if you see a lot of gang symbols and graffiti or flags or hats or bandanas, and you allow that, pretty soon you're going to have weapons. Pretty soon you're going to have assaults with those weapons. If you see a lot of inappropriate touching and inappropriate displays of affection, before long you're going to have claims of sexual violations like sexual offense, sexual assault. That's where that stuff comes from. Gang activity brings weapons. Certain types of gang activity brings drugs. Inappropriate contact brings sexual charges later on. The little stuff leads to the big stuff. That's consistent in our business. Why do you think the state has you put everything in so they can look at, and you can look at your statisticals, even the little stuff? There is no minor and major when it comes to reporting infractions to the state. Everything that happens in the building's got to go. So we can look at these numbers and we can start predicting. I could tell you where the next gun was going to show up in Charlotte. I could tell you where the next rape was going to show up simply by looking at the monthly statisticals and see how much of the antecedent behaviors were going on there. And unfortunately, I got too good at it. I could tell you pretty much to the school where it was going to happen in 180 schools by running the algorithm. We just run a linear regression. If we saw a certain threshold was passed on certain kind of small behaviors, we knew the big ones were coming. That's just the way it works, folks. I hate that, but that's just the way it works. So I've got this document for you here at your leisure. You can look at it. And this stuff is real. This is real graffiti and real tattoos from Charlotte. I've also got a section here on sexual harassment, identification, and prevention. Again, the little stuff becomes the big stuff. Sexual harassment, left unchecked, becomes sexual assault, sexual offense, those kinds of things. And rape, there's the three biggies. Sexual harassment, we don't do rape prevention. We need to do sexual harassment prevention, and that will stop the rapes, the sexual assaults, and sexual offenses, is the idea here. So that's called antecedent behaviors. And so I've got that one for you this week. Spend some time with this if you would. Bullying. Every school district is required to have a bullying plan. Here's one from a school. This is what one would look like. And it's consequences, recognition, and prevention. It's a nice little bullying prevention program. It's got some stats in it. But the good thing about this one is it's got what schools can do to prevent bullying. You're supposed to have a bullying plan at your school. This is what one should look like. And I've taken the time to put it onto a PowerPoint for you. But yes, this is what your plan should consist of. So this is what a bullying prevention is. All right, and then the last thing that I had for you tonight was, again, refer back to law. Everything always goes back. Again, I want to remind you, meeting with superintendents yesterday, they want you to pause before you pull the trigger on things and say, wait a minute, isn't there a law or isn't there a policy or isn't that person funded from a different source? Before you make these mistakes, you don't have to remember everything, but they want you to say, wait a minute. They want you to pause. They said, if you can just get them to pause for a minute and say, should I ask somebody about this? Or is that, that's a different category maybe. Shouldn't I ask somebody before I spend that money or make that change? And the answer is yes. You need to know what you don't know. You don't have to memorize all 545 state statutes, but you should know or be able to access the most frequently used of those, like 288 and 390 are the ones you're going to use more than anything else. You need to know where they are and go and look at those. You're going to use 288 and 390 the most. So that's why I have that again in there to remind you. Go back to General Statutes 115C and statutes 1 through 545. And know where they are. Spend a little time with that harassment and the sexual harassment part, especially of the antecedent behaviors PowerPoint that I did, and you can look at the bullying plan, and that you should be looking to see if you've got one of those in your building. Let's quickly go. I see I've got 3 minutes left here. I can close some of this stuff out. Yeah. Okay. There we go. I'm going to quickly go over task stream requirements and weekly schedule that I was mentioning a few minutes ago.
Evidence, artifact, peer review, Zoom, we can leave with that.
Okay. Come on and open up for me here. All right, here we go. All right. Conduct Zoom peer review of OMA Task 1 by September 24th. That's this, so by the end of this week or, early next week, you need to have your Zoom review of this one done, of Task 1. Most of you are pretty much already got it written, so you need to review it. You drop it in the discussion board box I've got for you so you can pick up everybody. So yeah, this is the first week on that one. And then, then OMA Task 2 comes up a week after that, and then 3, and then 4, and then skip 1, skip 2, Task 1 on CAP. So you can kind of see our schedule here, and so that's why I'm reminding you tonight. Your groups are already been formed. Keep your same groups. Zoom starts this week. Now, what I was referring to is you're zooming that one, zooming that one, zooming that one for 3, zooming that one, zooming that one, and zooming that one. See, I don't have a zoom for every one of them. I don't have a Zoom for skip 2. You just review it the normal way. And so I don't have a Zoom for, I don't believe I have a Zoom for OMA Task 4, where there's no need to, how do you Zoom reviewing your competencies? I don't understand why you would Zoom that one. So that's what I was talking about. Hopefully, I've told the coaches, since they all work for me, don't require any additional Zooms outside of what the instructor says. I mean, these are the ones I want you to do. So you're doing OMA 1, you're zooming it. OMA 3, you're zooming that one. Skip 1, you're zooming it. CAP 1. There's just 4 Zooms. You can see my hand. There's just 4 Zooms this semester. Now, there's more tasks than that. There's four 2, and 1. So there's 7, but you're only doing 4 of those Zooms. We don't need to have to Zoom every week. So you're doing 4 Zooms. I'm reminding you again, you're doing 4 Zooms this semester. OMA task 1, OMA task 3, skip task 1, cap task 1. The others, for me, you don't have to do any more Zooms. If your coach says something about wanting to Zoom everything, you remind them that I have set 4 Zooms for this group. You just have to do 4. You do not have to do 7. You don't have to do 1 every time.
So even for like on task stream, do they not watch those since we copy and paste them into our peer reviews?
No, I don't watch them. They read them. They read them, but do I go back and watch all? I watch one every now and then when I need a laugh. If I need a giggle, I'll go back and watch one. But no, when we went online, when we went online, one of the things that superintendents even hit us again with yesterday is making sure that folks can deliver bad news. Can you sit and have critical conversations with people? And that's the whole idea of peer review is to do that. Yes, we do read them. You have to obviously do a written review of all 7. Yes, they will read those at grading time. Yes, I read those, and I do because I'm in Blackboard every day. I grade every day, and so I read those reviews. But watching the videos, I'll watch a group. If I get 5 or 6, from this first round, I'll probably watch all of them on the first round. But I watch those, and I get, and that kind of drives my instruction. The graders, no, they just read them. They're looking at the content. That Zoom review, it's there if a grader wanted to watch it, but the graders generally don't do that. No, they generally don't watch them unless there's some specific reason that they're watching them for. They read them all. They read all the reviews. They read your paper and they read all your reviews to make sure you're doing that. And I probably watch more videos than anybody, but I watch them, because it helps me drive. Since I designed the 603 shell and that everybody uses for this course, myself included, that's what drives me. And since I'm, in charge of all the clinical coaches that go out and work with you on the OMA, that's what drives me to watch the videos, not because it's a grade for you. It's feedback for me on what we're doing. That's why I said feedback for me is that 7 is no better than 4. 7 just takes more time. Let's focus on content, not process. 4 is enough during one semester. I don't see the added value of doing 7, especially when a couple of those tasks don't really lend themselves to peer review. Why would we be peer reviewing competency reflections? I get that. So I'm trying to streamline and get you to what's important or most important, and so you can spend time doing clinical things that add value to your experience. And that's what I'm trying to do, is add value to your experience. I'm not big about just putting checks in the boxes for me or for anybody else. This is your program. You're supposed to be the one getting value out of it. You paid us for a certain, to train you and to prepare you for a job. And that's what I'm doing is I look at every one of you want to be assistant principal tomorrow, and it's my job to get you there. This is not an esoteric exercise or just some theoretical exercise. If you're in the program now that you don't get paid for this degree until you get a job, my assumption is everybody wants to get a job. And so that's what I'm doing, is trying to prepare you to get that job. So if we look at the discussion boards, I don't have any busy work discussion boards. Everything I have for you to do in discussion board is something that I believe that will help you to prepare you for the job. So if you go back and look at our discussion boards, and of course, here's where you go in and put your task in for peer review right here. in these boxes. I had you locate the plans, examine the field trip policy, reflect on being financially, observe student due process, interview assistant principal, examine the school or district policy on cyberbullying, attend an IEP meeting, interview chair or the member of your intervention team. Why do you think I had you do that? Because you're going to be in charge of that as a principal. Again, that's a school-based committee. Interview administrator concerning human resources practices, employee assistance compensation plans, do a facilities walkthrough, interview administrator about fundraising, list the 5 most important steps in the school-based budgeting process, locate a copy of your school budget, have 1 hypothetical case, and then examine the school or district policy on harassment. That's why I had you look at that tonight. And I had you, I've given you an example of a bullying plan. I should have probably added that in here, but because I had cyberbullying, I don't want, I want to make sure that we have, don't want to have more activities than we have weeks to do them in. So if you'll notice, everything is driven by practical things. I want you to be doing practical things. I don't care about read a chapter or answer the questions. That's immaterial. That's not what you do as an administrator. These things hopefully will give you a snapshot or a view. Now, I'm not telling you you're going to be trained perfectly, but at least you're going to know what you don't know, and you'll know where in the areas that you need to get help in, and you'll know areas I need to ask somebody about this and not make that mistake. So hopefully that's what we're trying to do here with you. Questions that you have for me? Well, I went over the 45-minute goal, but I stayed under the hour limit, so I did well tonight. I appreciate you being with me. Call me, email me, send me questions, whatever you need. Remember that, whatever you need, I'm here available for you. Get in touch with your coach. You know who your coaches are. If you're having problems on one end, let me know, since I work with all of them. They have to be with me on Tuesday nights. They get lessons on Tuesday nights. So y'all aren't the only one that has to put up with me every week. All right. I'll see y'all next week. Y'all have a good time. Bye-bye.
Bye.